Thank you all for coming. This is exciting. More people than I expected. That's always a great thing. Anyway, really appreciate you coming. I'll get right into it in just a moment. I know that some of you are here for the first time, and so I'm going to do a very, very quick overview of the first 5 books in this series. And no, I will not do a reading from each book, so you can relax there. And Jeff, I apologize, I'm going to step out of frame for a second unless you can follow me. But these are the first 5 books in the series. There's Maybe Next Year, Instant Adult, Open Books, Closed Sets, If I Seem Quiet, and Karma Trading from Kansas. And that's, of course, the new one, Maybe Now. And some of you probably picked up on the first book is Maybe Next Year, and the last book is Maybe Now. What happens here, in a nutshell, is we start off in 2007 with our characters, the 2 main characters being 17-year-olds that are just finishing up their junior year of high school and heading into the summer between high school, between their junior and senior year of high school. And they've been inseparable best friends for like 3 years, and they're finally starting to figure out that there's a little more going on there than just being best friends. And the problem, though, is that one of them, whose name at the time is Brian, I'll get into why that changes, his father happens to be the head pastor of the largest evangelical Christian church in Kansas. And so, of course, coming out to his parents would go about as badly as you would think. Anyway, he ends up getting outed to his father. His father tries to put him through gay conversion therapy. And this book, as I said, takes place in 2007. And if you remember back into the mid-2000s, there was a huge movement like Exodus and Love One Out conferences and, Focus on the Family and all these people trying to save people from being gay and all these counselors professing to offer reparation therapy. I wanted to be sure that was captured as part of the landscape of the times we lived in 2007. So anyway, he ends up running away from home to escape being sent to a gay conversion therapy place and lands in Los Angeles, and he becomes an instant adult. So this is his senior year in high school. His new high school has a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance. That's a good thing. But he still endures some homophobia, some anti-gay bigotry, that sort of thing. But this is all about him suddenly adapting to life in Los Angeles on his own as an openly gay kid. And there's lots of good stuff in here too. He lucks out and finds a great room to rent with several other gay roommates, and they're a lot of fun, let's just put it that way. This is, I mentioned changing his name. When he left home, as soon as he turned 18, he changed his name. Number one, because he didn't want to be associated with his father, who was becoming a very well-known televangelist, and because he didn't want them to find him. So he changes his name to Ryan Robertson. And here he's at UCLA, and he is financing his college education, and even just financing his living expenses, in the most cash-effective way possible, that is working in the adult entertainment industry. That presents some interesting challenges. So there's that. He ends up graduating. Now, If I Seem Quiet, a lot of people read this and they thought, wait a minute, these are completely different characters. Where's Ryan? Where's all the other people? And the reason for that is this. This was originally my first book. And it starts off with a fellow named Aaron, who is 28. Basically, he's a little bit late at coming out, but he finally is welcomed out of the closet when he's invited to join Phoenix's local LGBT band, which in this book is called Desert Pride, but wink, wink. Anyway. And so he meets people, he rapidly assimilates into the gay community, and he meets this tall, slender, handsome fellow named Ryan. And so that's where these 2 worlds intersect partway through this book. And of course, on the one hand, he wants a relationship, but on the other hand, he's newly out and there's so much experience, and he's a kid in a candy store, and that doesn't always set relationships off on a good foot. So that's this book. Now, up to this point, Ryan has been pretty good about leaving Kansas behind him. He vows to never go back. You know, Kansas is in the past. Not really. So his father, and you know, these big high-name televangelists, all this stuff like that, what happens to them sooner or later? They get caught in a scandal. They crash, one or the other. And his father ends up getting caught in a big scandal back in Kansas. And that makes the news. Of course, he gets kicked out of his church and all that. And anyway, without giving too much away or taking too much time, his father ends up moving to this area and ends up crossing paths with Ryan. But Ryan is also reunited with some of his people from Kansas that he wants to be reunited with too. So there are good and bad with Kansas catching up with him. But anyway, this is Karma Train from Kansas, and that was the next to last book. And finally we get here. So this is Maybe Now. This starts in 2019. Ryan and Aaron are now a couple. They got married near the end of Karma Train from Kansas. They are a couple. Ryan works at a company, a high-tech company, with a totally false name like Technovations. It could be any real company, we don't know. But it's false, it's fictitious. But anyway, he's done really well at Technovations, and as the book begins, he has been invited to a meeting with the VP of Human Resources and Workforce Development. And he has no idea why. So I'd like to read you a little bit from the book. Finally got smart, so let me bring the music stands, but I have to hold the thing the whole time. When Ryan arrived home, he planted a nice juicy kiss on his husband Aaron's lips and gave him an enthusiastic hug. Aaron said, "Well, you must have had a good day." "I had a fantastic day. I'll tell you all about it over dinner. How was your day?" "Not as good as yours. Just another day in paradise, if you consider the Food World Pharmacy paradise." And Aaron is a pharmacist. "At least it was a little slower than usual." "I feel like going out for dinner. How about you?" "Yeah, sure. You pick the place." "How about Kahuna's Tiki Paradise?" Which may or may not be modeled after a tiki restaurant here in town, but anyway. So your day was that good, huh? It was. Anyway, let's change and we'll get going. So 45 minutes later, they were sitting in Kahuna's, Mai Tais in hand, and dinner orders placed. Ryan said, "Okay, so today I was invited to a meeting with the VP of Human Resources and Workforce Development. He told me I've been identified as someone with leadership potential, and he offered me a spot in their leadership development program." Aaron said, "That sounds exciting." "Yeah, so I told him I was definitely interested and grateful for the opportunity. Then I asked what was involved. He said, I'll be assigned a mentor. We'll meet once or twice a month. There will be training classes they'll send me to every so often. Then later, they'll put me on a rotation of assignments in different parts of the company so I get exposed to a broader view of how the company works." Aaron said, "That sounds amazing. I'm really happy for you." "Thanks. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it." "Anyway, just so you know, at least one of those rotation assignments is going to involve living in a foreign country." At that moment, their server appeared and delivered their entrees. "Is there anything else I can get for you? Maybe another round of Mai Tais?" Ryan was in a celebratory mood. "I'd like a tropical ditch." Aaron felt like he needed another drink. "I'll have a Dr. Funk." When the server left, Aaron said, "So you're going to have to work someplace else?" "Just for a year. But I'm not surprised. Almost everybody who's made it to the upper ranks of our company has worked overseas at some point during their career. They say it's important to learn about the international parts of the business. When would that happen? I don't know, not right away. So what about me? Does that mean we have to be apart for a year? Not necessarily. Usually when someone takes an overseas assignment, they move their spouse and their kids too. Since we're married, you could come along. They'll pay for it and they'll give me a higher per diem. Well, what would I do for a year? Just sit around in some apartment? You could get a job in a pharmacy there, couldn't you? No, it doesn't work that way. I'd have to sit for that country's board exam and pass it before I could get a job. And that would interrupt my career path here, such as it is. Ryan thought for a moment. Well, okay, maybe it would make more sense for you to stay here, but they'll pay for visits home once a quarter. Or we could use that funding for you to come visit me. Aaron sighed. Ryan continued. We can chat on Zoom every day, or at least several times a week. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I don't even know if I'll make it that far in the program or where they might send me. Well, okay, but I'm not crazy about having to spend a year apart. I get it. I don't like that part either, but it's still a ways off. We'll figure it out. But this is a great opportunity. Very few people get a chance at this. And those senior level people make at least $500,000 a year. At least. Think about the traveling we could do. Think about the house we'd be able to buy. Is the money really that important to you? It's not just the money. It's also the challenge and the opportunity. Aaron said, I'm happy enough with what we have. He took another bite of food and chewed it thoroughly. But if it's that important to you, and it's something you really want, I'll support you. Ryan's face lit up. Thanks, honey. He reached across the table and squeezed Aaron's hand. I love you. Aaron tried his best to smile. I love you too. So that sets up the, as you can tell, that kind of sets up the initial conflict in this book. And as it turns out, Ryan gets sent to Auckland, New Zealand, which is a place he's always enjoyed and now finally gets to go live there for a year. And I don't want to give away too much more, but let's say lots of stuff happens. Okay? His high school boyfriend, who's been in a relationship with someone else for many, many years, and his partner has a family who still lives here in Glendale. They ultimately move back here. So now Chris is back in town. And his father becomes more present. And in a totally new twist, one evening, 2 LDS missionaries come and knock on their door. So lots of fun stuff happens in this book. So at this time, let me open it up for questions. Ask me anything. What did you have for breakfast?
When did you start writing the series?
Sure. As I mentioned, If I Seem Quiet was the first one. I started writing that in like 2017. Now, back in that first year or two, I was kind of like, well, let me sketch out an outline, let me write character profiles and all that stuff. And I took little stabs at it here and there, but after about a year, I started just budgeting 2 hours every day to write. But I started with the outlining and the story concepts for that back in 2017. Tom.
How did you know how to, for example, sketch out character profiles and all that stuff? I mean, did you do any educational stuff about writing before you started writing, or did you just sort of learn as you went?
I mostly kind of learned as I went. Another question I get asked every so often that's similar to that is, are the characters in your book based on real life people? And they aren't, but you can see, I can think of, as I look at the character Ryan, bits and pieces of him are kind of like me. Bits and pieces of him are like a friend of a friend that I knew a number of years ago, who was also, physically, I modeled Ryan after this fellow. He was also tall and slender and dark blonde and just really gorgeous and everything. Real smart and just the nicest guy. And his parents cut off communication with him when they found out he was gay. It's like, this is the son every set of parents should want to have. I mean, he just, turned out great, but except for the gay thing, So in a lot of ways, I kind of modeled Ryan after him. Aaron is originally from Ohio. He was in the Ohio State University marching band. He plays the trombone. Oh, gee, who could that be off But other things like I'm not a pharmacist, so there are bits and pieces of various people I've known along the way in the characters, and so that kind of helped me, write character profiles. But they say you should do things like, what's their favorite color? What's their favorite band? What foods do they like and not like? All that stuff. Just because you really feel like, even if that stuff never makes it into the book, at least you feel like you know your characters and you can write realistically about them.
Is this the end of the series? Maybe now, or is it going to continue?
As of now, it is the end of the series. Never say never.
Maybe tomorrow or something?
Yeah, maybe yesterday, Never say never.
But did you kind of conclude it like it would have an ending yet?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, these aren't romance novels, and one of the reasons is a romance novel has to have a happily ever after ending. And the first 5 of these books, for the most part, do not. Sometimes it's like happily for now, but there's still stuff that's yet to come. At the end of Karma Train, Ryan and Aaron get married, so that's kind of a happily ever after for them. And then his dad shows up, so that kind of leads you into the next book. But there really is a lot of the storylines that have snaked their way through these books really do kind of get resolved by the end. At this point, I don't have more in mind. Now, Armistead Maupin would have told you the same thing. When he finished his 6 Tales of the City books, he's now written 4 more books. So, maybe.
When did you have 6 books in mind?
I don't know, probably from at least the 4th book on. At one point I thought there would be 7, but as I really looked at story arcs, the fun thing about writing a series is like there's a story arc over all 6 books, but then there needs to be a story arc in each of the 6 books. Because I tried to make it so somebody could pick up any one of those books and read it and still have a complete story. So the way the storylines kind of had natural breaking points, it ended up being 6. That's kind of a weird number. 7 seems like a more artistic. Yeah, more artistic number. There you go.
If you had to pick a favorite, sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If you had to pick a favorite, could you? Or would you?
Would you ask, compare it, which one of your children?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. I will tell you, in some ways it's the recency effect. I really do kind of like Baby Now the most. By that much. I still love all my other kids. Tim.
How soon will Hollywood pick it up?
How soon will what?
Hollywood.
Please, God. I mean, I couldn't possibly be biased, but I think these would make a great, miniseries. I know a lot of you can remember Queer as Folk and 6 Feet Under. They both went on for 6 seasons. I could see each of these books being one season of these shows, and I think they would be great to be adapted for TV or movie. And my wonderful husband Jeff says, he's been telling me, he says, when you finally have all 6 books out, I'm gonna pimp your ass to everybody I know. And, you know, maybe somebody will call, who knows?
Is that something that you do? You write an overview of books and submit it to people that?
Yeah, there's what is called writing a treatment. And that's kind of my next goal, is I have to learn how to write a treatment. You know, it might make these more acceptable to somebody in showbiz. So, yes, I would absolutely love if these got optioned. Oh, please, God. I'd get religious again if that happened.
How do you promote these, like, is it just locally here, or do you have it like across the country, or how do you do that?
Well,
Or what do you?
yeah, how do I promote the books? That is the single toughest job of any author, especially if you're self-published or even published by, you know, a smaller independent press or something like that. Having Amazon makes it so easy for people to self-publish their own books, which is a great thing because people can self-publish their own books. What's not so great about that is everybody self-publishes their own books. And so then we've got this huge flood of books, and you have to compete for attention and all that. I am not a good marketer. I've learned more, but I still have so much more to learn. There are Facebook groups for people who are interested in gay books. Some of them really only want the kind of sexy, trashy, not to be judgmental, but basically just about sex, you know, that kind of thing. But I have found a couple groups that really have a good engaged base. Like some of those groups, you see everybody putting books out. I've got this book out, I've got this book out, I've got this. No likes, no comments, no nothing. So, you know, that's nothing. But I found a couple of groups that really have good engaged reader bases, and I'm starting to introduce my books into those groups. And I'm hoping for word of mouth. And if I could ask a favor of you all, two of the best things you can do to support one of your favorite local authors, I won't say your favorite, because another one of your favorite local authors is sitting right there, Dave Peterson. But A, write a review. It helps so much. And B, just say something on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is you're on. Hey, I just finished reading Maybe Now. Check it out. Because word of mouth is always the best advertising, especially when it comes from somebody they know, as opposed to some stranger who's hawking these books at them, you know. So you can help, and I'd really appreciate it. Next. Tim.
Band book club.
Oh, banned book club? My books aren't well known enough to get banned. That's kind of the problem. And in a way, that's kind of like, that would be a badge of honor. It's like, yeah, my book got banned. But, you know, as another author friend of mine who really does sell a lot of books and makes some money from them said, no, you're stealing my income when my book gets banned, you know. So it's not such a badge of honor, really. But, yeah, I should probably look up banned book lists and try to get on them. After all, if it's banned, there must be something good about it, right? Yeah, Michael, and then you.
You had mentioned earlier about story arcs.
Yeah.
And smaller arcs and then the larger arc. When you first started writing, did you have an arc in mind? Did you have these two characters already in mind, even if they didn't have names yet? And figured out how it was going to begin and how it was going to end, and then start filling in the middle as you were writing the other books?
Sort of, although it changed a lot as it went along. You know, I mentioned again that If I Seem Quiet was my first book, and I had the story arc for this, and at first this was just going to be one book. But when I got to the point, when I was developing the Ryan character, and I decided to make him, you know, the kid who had been rejected by his parents and had to go out on his own and all that stuff, I said, this guy's got an interesting enough backstory that he should get his own book. And so I sort of put this one on pause a little bit and thought, well, I'll write a book about Ryan first. And then I did that thing. And before too much longer, that became 3 books. So I partially had it figured out, but the project grew as it went along. So, and it's funny, one time I went back and looked at my initial outline for this book and how the book really turned out, and I ended up changing a lot along the way, but that's how it is. Aiden?
Yeah, two-part question. So now that you're done with the 6th book, and you're sort of done with the stories with these characters, are you feeling are you happy to be done with these characters, or are you feeling regret that you're leaving them behind? And the second part is, what does Jeff say about that question?
Well, I will let Jeff say what he wants to say about that in a minute, but so in a way, it's too bad. In a way, this is sort of like, I'm a parent and now my kids have gone off to college. Maybe it hasn't sunk in yet whether I'm really going to miss them, or even whether I miss going to the library 2 hours every day to write. For the time being, there is a little bit of, relief. But so for the time being, the other thing, and some of you who know us know this, fairly soon we are going to be spending 2 years doing a lot of travel. And it's going to be hard to maintain a 2 hour of writing a day routine while you're doing that. So I think that's also going to be sort of a break from writing. But when we come back from that, and we get a couple more dogs and that sort of thing, then we'll sort of get back into a regular daily routine. I'll probably be ready to start writing again. And who knows, when I actually go to New Zealand, I might dream up some storylines.
Yeah.
So Jeff, how do you feel about the fact that I'm pretty much finished writing books for the time being?
Well,
And you may speak honestly. You can come up here if you
no,
want.
I know, we're on the friends. No, I'm happy that you've gotten all of this out because you've worked so hard with it. And there were times when I thought you might get discouraged, but you didn't, and I'm proud of you for that. And now that all of your kids have been born, we need to put our kids to work, your kids to work, and get them out.
Put those kids to work, yes.
Put those kids to work, yeah. No, but now you'll have more time to, do husband stuff and dog daddy stuff and chores around the house.
And for the record, I do chores around the house. But to be really honest, sometimes we'd be sitting there at the dinner table and I'd be eating with this kind of far off look in my face, and he'll go, "What are you thinking about, dear?" My book. And it's almost like you live in two worlds. I live in the real world here, and I live in the world of my characters, and I'm thinking about that a lot, even outside of those 2 hours a day when I'm writing.
What's the process of doing like your cover art? How do you decide what to do, what picture to put on it, things like that? Do you have somebody do that for you? Can you do that?
No, I do it, and it's really tough. I am like totally 100% self-published. I don't even have like a small indie press that does my books. So either I do everything myself or I pay someone to do it. And if I pay someone to do it, then that's, cuts into whatever profits I might make. And it's been a learning experience too.
So like these two gentlemen on Maybe Now, what made you pick those two guys in that pose?
Sure. And so, there are a number of stock photo sites, and they're to the point now where they have like hundreds of thousands of images, tons of images. But I kind of look at, first of all, what characters match my envisioning of how they look. When I envision Ryan, what does he look like? And when I was I'm happiest with this cover. I mean, to get back to your question, which one of your books do you love the most? If only for the cover, I really love this. I saw this picture and this just popped. This picture says everything. I mean, the relationship between the two, they're so natural and happy together. This is exactly what I envisioned Ryan looking like. Exactly. And this is close to Chris. I envisioned Chris with slightly wavier hair, but This is definitely good enough, Chris. So, and that in and of itself is a spoiler for what happens in this book. Anyway, I put it right on the cover, and so okay. Brian and Chris get back together. Oh, okay, it's right there on the cover. But at any rate, I saw this, and I thought, okay, that is my cover. Some of these others, what I would do is I actually pick out a bunch of candidates and narrow it down to like 5. And then I would mock up book covers, like 5 different options, and put it out on Facebook and say, and also I'm glad I thought this, I have an email subscriber list that you should be on. There's a thing over here by this is my friend Scott, and in a minute, if you wish to buy any of these books, he'd be happy to make that happen for you. There's a QR code that you can scan, or you can just go to authordavehughes.com, and if you do, when you put in your email list, and I have most of your emails anyway, but and I don't spam you. In fact, now that I'm done writing, I'm not even going to send that many emails. But you will get to read a free short story called Cruise Virgins. It's about a 30-minute long read, and it fits in between book 3 and book 4. So chronologically, it would happen after Open Books Closed Sets and before If I Seem Quiet. But you get to meet some of the characters, and it's a little bridge between the 2 novels. But anyway, where was I going with that?
You use your email list as a marketing survey.
Yes, I do. Thank you, that's it. So this is the type of thing I send out to my email list. I say, here's 5 covers, what do you think of them? And the neat thing is, for several of these books, the people who responded changed my mind. I had a very different cover in mind for this one, but people said, no, I really like that. And I also kind of thought, this can kind of look enough like Aaron that works too. But he's got the right expression on his face, and I really like that. But I initially had a different cover in mind for this book. Same thing here. I went a totally different direction for this cover prior to getting here. And my retirement books, especially the third one, ended up with a completely different cover than the one I was going to go with. And the readers were right, those covers are much better.
Do you pay for the images?
Yes.
And do you pay more for face forward than back?
No, they're all the same price.
Curious.
I mean, yeah, if you go on Shutterstock, I mean, pretty much all the pictures are the same price, or iStock. The one that I ended up using that I like the most is Deposit Photos, both because they have really good pictures and they're noticeably less expensive. I got a package of 100 pictures for $30. It was on sale, but still. And so some of these actually, like maybe now, came from there. But yeah, no, I definitely pay for the licensing for the pictures I use.
So the book that takes place in LA, you never lived in LA?
No, but I've been there a lot.
Okay. So
I've actually been to UCLA several times, and Westwood. So
I was just curious why LA entered into it, but probably the next book with the adult film industry probably.
There was that too, because that's out in LA, and well, in particular, the San Fernando Valley. So yeah, there were all those reasons. And Kansas I just picked. Middle America, could have been Nebraska or Arkansas, whatever.
But not Ohio.
Pardon?
Not Ohio.
No. So, okay, well, again, thanks for coming. So, no purchase necessary. This is not a high pressure thing here. But, obviously, maybe now is $15. You want to have that. My other 5 books. So, I mean, they're available through Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you get ebooks from Apple Books and all that stuff. But, of course, I buy some author copies to have for events like this. And occasionally I do other events too. I have a fairly high inventory of some of these books, and I want to move them. So the 5 previous books are all just $5 each. $5! So you cleaned me out. The holidays are coming, books make great gifts, okay? So there's that, cash or credit card, whatever. If you want to get the ebooks, they are also $5 for the back catalog. You can just scan this and get the ebooks for $5 from Amazon or Apple or Barnes & Noble or Smashwords and Kobo, a couple others that are mostly foreign. So there's all that. I also have my 3 retirement books here, a few of each if you want to get those or scan for the ebook. And this is my faithful, loyal friend Scott, who serves as the cashier. Yes. So if you want, if you wish to purchase anything, do that. I will set myself up over here, and I'd be happy to sign your book and talk some more. And again, thank you so much. This means so much that you came out tonight. Thank you. P.S. I can't let this go by also without thanking Greg Edelman.
Oh, yeah.
He has my books for sale up here, as well as Dave Peterson's. So if at some point later you ever want to get one or send someone for one, you can always send them here. And as always, thank you to my wonderful husband, Jeff, who's videotapes this, has supported me in so many ways. He will probably be editing this video for me, and he does great at that. So again, thank you all so much.